You might be wondering, will a prenup hold up in California? Is it even worth it? And, it really depends, right? A lot of people are calling our office now, and they just want to maybe have like ChatGPT write their prenup, or I don't know, like have Google somehow write it, or some service. And if that's what you want to do, go for it. Will that prenup hold up in California? I don't know, but I think you know what I'm going to say. Probably not, right? Because for a prenup to be upheld in California, there's certain things you need to make sure you do. Number one, you and your future spouse need to exchange comprehensive financial disclosures of your income, your assets, your debts. If you haven't done that, the judge is probably not going to uphold your prenup. You and your spouse each need to have an attorney sign off on the prenup, and you and your spouse need to sign it and have a notary sign it. It needs to be notarized. Number 3, you need to sign off on the prenup well in advance of your date of marriage. If all of these factors are met, it's possible your prenup will be upheld by a California judge, but maybe not. The judge is going to decide whether to uphold your prenup or not based on the date of enforcement. So, for example, if you got married 5 years ago with a prenup, and now you're going through the divorce process, and your spouse doesn't want to agree to the terms of the prenup and files a motion in the family court and asks the judge, "Hey, judge, this prenup's not fair. I had to sign it under duress," or, "it's unconscionable. It includes a spousal support waiver, and it would be unconscionable to not give spousal support to poor little old me." That is up to the judge to decide, is this unconscionable? Should this prenup be enforced or not? And the judge is going to base it on California law today. So it's really, we don't know whether it's going to be enforced or not, but I can tell you that when you decide to get a prenup with my office, we take a lot of care and consideration in how we diligently prepare your prenups. We actually use this software program called Logic, which most law firms don't use. And what it does is it's created by a very experienced family law attorney in California to make sure that every provision in your premarital agreement is blessed. And we review all of the case law related to that provision, all the statutory authority, to make sure that whatever contracts we draft and whatever terms we put in your prenup are terms that we feel really confident will be enforced by a California judge. So if you have a prenup drafted online or by an attorney that's not a family law attorney or by a more amateur family law attorney, I don't know if it's going to be upheld. If you have it drafted by my office, of course, I can't guarantee it because I'm an anxious lawyer, but we'll do everything we can so that it will be enforced by a judge. And as part of our prenup process, we'll send you a long advice letter going over all the terms of what the impact is and what the weaknesses or vulnerabilities may be. And it's a decision that you're making with us. We're partners creating this document in your best interest to protect your financial future. So if you want to learn more about prenups and their enforceability, I would strongly suggest you contact my office, Fenchel Family Law, and we'll schedule you for a paid hour consult with one of our very experienced family law attorneys so that we can tell you how we can help you protect your financial future before you tie the knot. You might be wondering, how much money do you have to get a prenup? And, you might be thinking the answer on Google is going to be millions and millions of dollars. And I haven't Googled it today, but I don't think it says that. Prenups are helpful for people whether they make, $100,000 or $1 million. It's not about how much money you make. It's about what you want to protect, right? You are in a position right now and you don't know what financial position you're going to be 10 years from now or 20 years from now, right? And a prenup's goal is to protect your financial future, right? It's kind of like how you get into a car and, maybe you're one of those people that actually wears a seatbelt. You don't know if you're going to get into an accident, right? I hope you don't, but it's possible you could. And if you do get an accident, you're going to be really grateful you wore that seatbelt, right? So that's what a prenup is. It's basically protecting you from a future potential outcome. I hope it doesn't happen for you. I hope you found your soulmate and you have a great marriage and you're right off into the sunset. But if you don't, and you have a very profitable financial future during your marriage, you don't want your fear of having to pay your spouse spousal support or having to give your spouse half of your community property assets you've accumulated during the marriage. You don't want those fears to cripple you from going forward with your divorce, so then you can have, the life that you you deserve, right? So, I wouldn't tell yourself, oh, I don't have enough money for a prenup, so I shouldn't look into it. If you think you might be a good candidate for a prenup because you want to protect yourself financially, I would strongly suggest, you contact my office to learn about, what a prenup can accomplish and what kinds of financial community property rights maybe you'd like to protect. And, sometimes people schedule a consult with my office and our advice is you really don't need a prenup and we don't think you should pay for one. And, we just give you some advice as far as what community property law does and doesn't do. In fact, I think I have a 5-star review from someone that was just like, Valerie told me, or I think I have 2. Valerie told me I didn't really need a prenup, but I appreciated her advice. And I love those reviews because it makes me feel like I'm an honest, nice person, not an evil attorney that everyone talks about. So, we'll be honest and transparent with you. We're not going to sell you on something that's not a good idea for you because we want to do the right thing with you. So if you're not sure if a prenup is right for you, a lot of people aren't sure, no matter how much money they make. It's something you've never been through before. Unless you have, then maybe schedule a consult with us and we'll walk you through the process and let you know if you need a prenup and whether we are the right fit to help you. So if you're married, or even if you're not married, you might be wondering, what is a postnup? It's kind of a funny word. People don't talk about it as much as prenup, pre, post, probably after marriage, but what is it? And a postnup is basically if you get married and you didn't have a prenup, or even if you did, a postnup is a way of kind of redeciding what laws you want to apply to your marriage as far as what your financial future is going to look like. So under California law, when you get married, there's community property law. If you don't have a prenup or a postnup or anything, it's just that we call it, California's default prenup. And California community property law says that, if you get married and then your marriage ends in divorce, there's certain rights you and your spouse have to spousal support. The higher earner might be required to pay the lower earner support every month so that you're more evenly paired, as well as child support, as well as, your assets will be divided according to community property law, where if there's a community property interest that has accrued from during your marriage, that's going to be split 50-50 between you and your spouse. Some people don't like that, especially, millennials or people that have been divorced before, or clients that are from wealthy families that are going to get an inheritance, or if you have your own business. Certain people really don't like community property law and they don't want it to apply to them. So great. If you don't want community property to apply to you and you already got married, so it's too late for a prenup, you can get something called a postnup. And a postnup will help us rewrite what laws you want to apply to you and your spouse and which laws you want to kind of get out of. Maybe you don't want a community property interest to accrue. Maybe you're building up your business and you want your business to stay yours. And if you get divorced, you don't want to have to give your spouse half of the interest of your business because that sounds kind of sucky. I can understand that. Maybe you're about to get an inheritance and you're worried you're going to commingle that inheritance with the other assets you have, and then it's going to be hard to earmark it away if you get divorced. So you just want clarity that, the money and the bank accounts with your name will always be your separate property, whether it's commingled or not. It's kind of a choose your own adventure situation. You schedule a consult with us and you tell us what keeps you up at night, what are your anxieties and fears, and we'll tell you if, we could draft a postnup with those terms, whether those terms would be enforceable in California law. We can't put in terms that your spouse will always do your laundry. I'm sorry, that's not something enforceable in California. We can't say your spouse can never cheat on you. Sorry, that's not an option. We can't say, how you're going to share custody of your kid. That's not something we would put in a postnup. And typically in a postnup, we don't put anything about waiving spousal support. That's typically just done in a prenup, but usually not enforceable in a postnup. I'm just trying to think what people have asked about postnups. But, if you have a question about a postnup, it's kind of a hot topic. People always want to know about it. Go ahead and schedule your consult with my firm, Fenchel Family Law, and we can have an hour consultation with you to talk to you about the postnup process, and whether it might be a right fit for you. Sometimes people are, not sure, like, do I get divorced or do I get a postnup? Just know postnup cannot be drafted in contemplation of divorce. So if you're already on that divorce road, might be a little late to get a postnup. We've seen it happen before, but maybe talk to us first. Let's not go crazy. But yeah, it's an interesting topic, and it might be a topic that could really help you and protect your financial future if you do end up getting divorced, even though you want to stay married. So come talk to us about it, and we'll see how we can help.